Rev up your engines!
Well, as you see these electric Tesla semis breaking down, it looks more and more like the future of electric semis may be ammonia-powered trucks. Now, they're electric trucks, but they use fuel cells, and as a source, they're going to use ammonia. Fuel cell trucks that work on hydrogen, they're already out there, right? And they work perfectly fine. The problem is the hydrogen. It either has to be under extremely high pressure or extremely cold temperatures or a combination of the two, right? And that's a pain in the butt to store to transport. Ammonia has been transported for ages. It's fine at room temperature. Well, they now have prototype semis that are running on ammonia. It's a process where they break the hydrogen and the nitrogen apart in ammonia, then they turn the hydrogen in a fuel cell into electricity. That would be a big deal because then you can fill them up in 5-10 minutes just like a regular diesel truck, but you don't have to deal with high pressure gas because ammonia, of course, is a liquid. So you don't have to mess with all that stuff. The only hassle with that system is it's got to turn the ammonia into hydrogen and nitrogen, and then use the hydrogen in a fuel cell. There's a company called Amogy, which is a MIT-based startup. We all know Massachusetts Institute of Technology is a very high-level university for brilliant people with technology, and they say that it's way better than battery electric cars, which of course it would be. Now, you would still need an ammonia infrastructure. That doesn't exist. Just like there's not an infrastructure for battery electric cars, there's no power. There's not enough electricity to run them all. If you started switching millions of vehicles, that doesn't exist either. So, any way you look at it, this electrification is only going to work if there's a large infrastructure change in this country. It isn't something that's going to happen in a year or two or even 5 years. It's going to take a really long time to get this stuff to work. Maybe it'll be ammonia instead of battery electric cars. The batteries cost a fortune, all that hassle creating them. Then you got to burn coal and gas or whatever to make the electricity to recharge the batteries. Who knows? Maybe it'll be ammonia. We don't know. It's in the future at any rate. It's going to be a long time before we're driving cars that are all either battery electric or ammonia fuel cells. This is going to take a long time in the real world. Scientists, yeah, they got great ideas. You can work on technology, but it's not going to happen in the short term. It's going to take a long time for this stuff to come into an actual existence where millions and millions of people are using the technology. Justin Weeks says, do you think you could run an electric motor with really high voltage coil packs and multiple alternators? Something that looks like a water heater with coil packs all the way around it, like the Fat Boy atomic bomb that drives a central tank that runs alternators. What do you think? Very interesting idea, you know? But in practical purposes, you can't have an electric motor that runs its own generators because all motors are somewhat inefficient. If you had your own electric motor and it was running alternators, it would be wasting its own energy. You're always losing power. So if you had a motor that was running alternators, you'd actually be losing power. Something has to power the electric motor, right? That electric motor is being powered by what? Well, you say, well, the alternator is going to power it. Well, the alternator can't power itself. It only generates electricity from energy put into the alternator. And the energy going into the alternator can't be coming from the motor that you're powering, because that would be a net loss. You'd lose energy. If you had a big giant battery, you could run off the battery, but then what's the point? If you got a big giant battery, there's no point in running it that way because it can't recharge itself. You would just be losing more energy than you're putting in. That's what a lot of people need to understand. There's a conservation of energy in physics. You can't run an alternator on an electric motor. You'd just be losing energy. Like people say to me, Scotty, why don't you just put alternators on the wheels of electric cars so they can charge themselves as they're going down the road? Well, the only time that would work, and there is a truck that does that, is if you were only going downhill all the time, and then the weight of the car would be going downhill, and it could generate enough power that it could go. There's a big, giant boulder carrying thing at one of these mines, and what they do is it's full of rocks at the top of the mine, which is on the top of the hill. Then as it goes down, it generates enough electricity while it's going down that when they dump the rocks, it has enough power for the empty truck to go back up. So they can keep doing that, and it works. But it only works while you're going downhill. When you're going uphill, it expends the energy. So you can't generate your own electricity on flat ground. You put more energy in than you get out. Robert Anthony says, I got an 04 Toyota Sequoia. Should I replace the fuel pump? I got 236,000 miles on the vehicle. It runs fine, but I don't want to get stuck on the road 4,000 miles from home with a bad fuel pump. Well, I mean, if you're worried, go right ahead. Here's the thing. Do you know how many fuel pumps I have replaced on Toyotas since they went to electric fuel pumps in the tank? And the answer is only one. And I worked on a lot of cars in 54 years, right? Only one. And the only reason I had to replace that one is because the guy let it sit for years with an empty gas tank. Water got in it, it rusted the pump out. Other than that, they generally last a really long time. Now, some of the newer ones, as you know, Nip and Denso, they made bad pumps and Toyota had to replace them out free because they weren't designed right. But that was newer ones. Yours is an old one. And truthfully, I've never had to change one out in those. But on the other hand, if you don't want to go through all the work, what the heck? Buy the pump. Put it in your tool truck or wherever in your back seat. And then you'll have it if you need it, you know? It's not that bad of a deal on a Toyota changing a fuel pump. It's not like the ones where you got to take absolutely everything apart and drop the fuel tank. They're a lot easier, so you might just buy one and put it in the back seat. Mr. Bob says, that sinking Kia feeling. Here's a story. I got a 2021 Kia Sorento I purchased in March 2021. I put 10 grand down in cash and I financed $47,398. It was okay, but then I noticed a noise, and they had to replace the steering column. Took 3/4 of a month for them to even order it. Then I get it back, it's making a noise. The old transmission is bad. Kia sent engineers, and they said, we don't know why, but it's broken. They will not release my car due to liability. They're going to replace my transmission. Our car's been in the dealership since December 15th, 2022, with no part replacement. They're a new transmission stateside. They're now offering two options: to give me some kind of financial compensation because I'm still making payments, and it's inconvenience, or they're going to buy it back, but they haven't given me numbers yet. If anybody else is thinking about buying one of these cars, please listen to what happened to me and don't. You put 10 grand down, $57,398 for a Kia Sorento. I would never pay that kind of money for a Kia. The thing that amazes me, when Kia first came out, they were really junky little cars, but they didn't cost much. And people bought them because they were so much cheaper than the Hondas and Toyotas. Now they're pretty much the same price. Why would anybody in their right mind buy a Kia when they could buy a Toyota or a Honda in the same price range? Sometimes the Toyotas and Hondas are even cheaper. To me, it makes no sense. I don't know how Kia pulls this fast one, but as you can see, look how he's treated at the dealership. And now they're saying, well, maybe we'll buy it back or we'll give you a little bit of money here. It's just ridiculous. The thing was a year and a half old when the transmission broke. I'm telling you, they have no quality control at that company. Anybody that thinks they do is living in la-la land. I see this day in and day out. People having problems with these things. So, as per usual, don't get involved in this thing. Don't buy a Kia in the first place. We All Broke says I'm getting low fuel economy on my new car. I bought a new car. It only has a 1.2 liter turbo petrol engine. They told me I'll get bad fuel economy until I get it serviced the first few thousand miles. In the city, I'm getting 19 miles a gallon. On the highway, 37.63 miles per gallon, which is fine. The car I bought is a Tata. I live in India. On the highway, you're getting normal gas mileage, so it's working fine on the highway. Yet in the city, you're getting crappy gas mileage. It's got to be getting into highest gear. If you're driving in the city and it's not going into the last gear, you're going to get worse gas mileage. Obviously, it's going to the last gear in the highway because you're getting regular gas mileage. You're getting 37 miles a gallon on the highway, but only 19 in the city. I would have the transmission looked at. Obviously, the car's running fine because at highway speeds, it's getting good gas mileage. For some reason, it's not getting into the top gear when you're driving around in the city. Now, you say it's a Tata, so obviously you're in India, right? Now, I know how congested it is in India. If you're in a stop-and-go thing with people everywhere and you're going 2 miles an hour stop, you're going to get 19 miles a gallon because you're not moving. You got to be moving. If you're in gridlock, forget gas mileage. I'm assuming yours is probably mainly you're in gridlock because on a highway, you get normal gas mileage, and I've seen pictures of India, people driving in there bumper-to-bumper traffic. You're going to get horrible gas mileage when you're in bumper-to-bumper traffic. That's just what's going to happen. I know people in Houston, and the hilarious thing there is bumper-to-bumper traffic in Houston is often on the highway because in the morning and then later in the afternoon when everybody gets off work, instead of going to work, there's just like 30, 40 miles of gridlock on the highway, and they're going 0 mile an hour, 2 mile an hour, and at that speed, you're going to get horrible gas mileage. It doesn't matter how your car's running. Bob Poppy says, I'm looking at a used 2008 Mazda 6 with 100,000 kilometers up in Canada with a clean Carfax. Is it a good first car? Is it reliable? They can be reliable cars, 15 years old. So it's an older car, but you only got 100,000 kilometers. So that's what, 60-something thousand miles, right? So that's hardly any miles on it. All you want to do is have a guy like me check it out and have him look at all the data, especially the automatic transmission data. If that all shows good and it runs and shifts good, go ahead and buy it. It'd be a good first car. They do have somewhat weak transmissions, but any mechanic can tell you what shape it's in now. And that is low mileage for a car that's at all. It could be a good car. The newer ones are even better. They got a deal going with Toyota and they're sharing technology and they're even better. But if it checks out okay with the mechanic, it could be a very good first car. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.